A very good evening to all our audience who attend our section today. So I am Nicole, the moderator for the day, and also Nicholas, the moderator for the day. So the topic for today is making a good prototype by Mr. Taufik, the managing director of ProTrain Technology Sendirian Berhad. Let's pass this section to Mr. Taufik.
Okay, guys. This is my first time going to APU, so quite wonderful. Okay, and hopefully the session that we'll be sharing this evening will be something useful for all of you. All right. Okay. I will talking about how if you guys want to make a good prototype. Okay. I believe in your subject, so or in your curriculum at fourth year or third year, there are things that you have to make a prototype, especially for the technical students. All right, you are coming from a computer science, software, or mechanical, electrical. So this is something that you will definitely will do it. Okay. And also good knowledge for those who are non-technical background. At least you know what is the skills and what is the steps required in order to make a good prototype. We are not just talking prototype, but how to make a good one. Okay. Let me start my slides. Okay. Okay, whenever we talk about prototype, it has to be associated with product. Okay, whenever we want to make a product, prototype has to come first. Okay, so as you can read from the slide, it is the definition from the Oxford. I got it online. So it is the first preliminary versions of a device. Okay, so which means this is the first revision of parts. Whatever you want to invent. I mean, for example, this is my iPhone, right? SE. Okay. For this evening, I will more give a presentation and example for making like a handphone. All right. And we will have a video by Steve Jobs. Okay. For the company Apple. Okay. Then how do we associate with prototype and product? Okay. Prototype is something functional, Okay. I think this phone, all right, when you have it, it's a product. Okay. When it's still in the company, when they to develop the first phone, it is a prototype, right? So if you imagine the Apple, okay, back then in 2000, early, okay, 2000, I don't know which year, they took like 2.5 years to develop the prototype until it can be mass produced, right? But how they want to make a good one, okay? So if a prototype has to be a product, then the product has to fulfill certain criteria. So as mentioned, it has to be attractive, all right? So the phone, even though it looks simple, but simplicity is also an aesthetic, all right? The curve, the corners, how do you put the cameras, the colors and everything. Okay. Of course, the price has to become with the value, okay? Like phone nowadays, it can cost you like less than 1,000 to 5,000 ringgit each, but it has to come with a value. And sometimes it comes with a brand. No Apple phone cost less than 1,000, right? Mostly at least 2,000 ringgit. So they come with a value of the brand, okay? Of course, it has to be easy to be used, okay? Because not everybody are very technical, okay? Sometimes we are villagers, kan? Apa tu? Fishermen, kan? They just can use the phone easily. All right. And one thing for sure, for every product, which means we will talk about prototype later, every product or every prototype has to be unique. Normally, there is a term we call it unique selling proposition. Okay, what is the uniqueness of the product? Why do you have to buy this? Why do you not opt for another brand? Okay, of course, every product must have a market, right? Without market, I mean, you are selling at loss because people don't buy. Okay, now we before we go deeper, what is a prototype or what is making a good prototype? We have to know the importance. All right, this is something I think for Malaysian or if you are coming from other countries, this would be something that you have to thinking about. All right. Okay. What is the importance of a product? Of course, product and prototype they are almost similar, right? But I will jump sometime product and sometime prototype, right? What is why you are? I'm really concerned about product. Okay, okay. Firstly, the very important is the economic sustainability. I mean, if you just say Japan, German, America, those countries, these three countries is developed country, but there are a lot of products. Okay, all right. Now we have a new emerging country, which is China, right? They try to compete. They try to make a product. Last time, their product is not in good quality, but nowadays, at least they can compete. Of course, you can say some brand from this country are better, but at least they are competing. Okay, which mean if we Malaysian or uh, whatever country you're from, a product, okay, will make sure the country, in terms of economic, they are very sustainable. All right. We cannot rely on something, the mineral, like the fossil fuel, whatever mineral that being gifted by God. We cannot rely on those resources economic. You can see Japan, okay, they rely on the product. You just name it. There are so many brands, right? From Japan, German, and US. Okay. And secondly, why it is important is because of resilience. All right, resilience in a way in terms of economics. Okay, whenever being hit by economic downturn, turmoil, like pandemic. Okay, if you have a product after this problem solved, or whenever pandemic is lifted, okay, people will buy the product, so it makes easy recovery. Okay, but the mineral, sometimes people change the policy. All right, the carbon tax, the carbon footprint, which make you cannot easily buy the fossil fuel, and then the tax will rise. Okay, so but then product people will buy. Okay, in a product, we have to segmentize the product. We have a consumer product and we have business product. Consumer means anything that being consumed by the public, okay, the end user, which means us, student, okay, housewife, okay. But business product means whatever being used in the factory, okay, like the schools. Okay, this is called a business, business to business, business to consumer. We call it B2C, B2B. All right. So and whenever we develop product, we have to define what is our market. Is it a consumer market or business market? Okay. The third important, why do we need a prototype and product? Because it create more jobs. It create new jobs that we could not think of before. All right. I mean, in this day, we have like digitalization, IoT, 4.0 and everything. It create a lot of jobs. Okay. I would explain later. Okay. And also the importance of prototype and product, because the nature itself is disruptive. Okay. I mean, if you can read from my slides, disruptive is something it can change the ecosystem of the previous product. All right. So I mean, in my slide, I mentioned, if now we have a Shopee, right, or Lazada, sometimes we have a Muda, whatever online market that we have, it competing with the mall. What do you think? People people accept the digital market, a digital mall? I mean the digital marketplace, or you still accepting the traditional mall? People now is get used to this kind of digitalization, right? So it is disrupting the current economics. That's why if you, I remember last year or last 2 years, uh, the Mall Association of Malaysia said don't make any new malls, right? Because because we have a new kind of apa tu a buying style, right? So it's no point to making a new mall because it will make the current mall doesn't have any apa tu buyers or no the customers, right? Okay, and then you can see Grab and taxi. Before we have a taxi, right? Now Grab. So what do you think? Grab itself is disrupting the whole chain of a taxi, right? So this is the importance of product, okay? And in business, we have to know that not the one product may not sustain more than 10 years. Sometimes it just sustain for 2 years, 3 years, and the business people will make sure during this the 2 years they will make money because they know after that there will be a new product emerging, right? Okay, and maybe there are new technology that we don't know, right? And you can just imagine last time, I mean, those who are now in 40s like me, we previously we have Nokia phone. I mean, if you know Nokia, it was back then in 1990s, if I'm not mistaken, 80s, 90s, I think. Okay, people just buy Nokia, and some of the other brand like Motorola, Ericsson. But nowadays, have the money, but sometimes they are losing because of imaging of new brands, which can give unique selling proposition. All right.
So which mean when time changing, the buyer will have their new like something they like to change, and then time pass, the technology will also increase, so the product will need to suit the market, right?
Yeah, because the new technology somehow it meet the demand, it meet your needs. All right. Whenever a product meeting the uniqueness, people start to embrace, start to use it, and then they forgot with the apa ni? The
Yeah, the old kind
yeah,
of
the
thing.
old yeah. Mm.
I have another question for Mr. Taufik as well. So speaking of smartphones, and the iPhone is sort of like the theme for today as well. But today I'm going to ask you like as an example, because I know that the Samsung released a folding phone, right, with the screen that you can fold, as well as Huawei. So do you think like that kind of phone is a good prototype? Because I don't think like it fulfills all of the necessary aspects of a good prototype. So what are your opinions on that kind of phone?
You mean the flip one?
Yes, the flip one with it.
Okay. Sometimes the company they have to bet, they have to try. Okay, even though there are some arguments because the flip one, we see some of the problems. Sometimes they just want to make sure they enter the market, then they just want to try. All right, and I mean, as a business people, I mean, if you have a student from business, from finance, you have to give a chance for the technology to be accepted by the consumer. So at least they try. You know, same goes to the Steve Jobs. Whenever he wanted to release the iPhone, it's a gambling. He has to invest not 1 million, sometimes hundreds of millions. All right. I mean, that would be my answer.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Okay. Now, whenever we talk about product and prototype, there are some gauge. How do we gauge what is the level of a product or prototype, right? Okay. Okay. Now, we call it TRL, Technology Readiness Level. I was told TRL was developed by the NASA back then because NASA is one of the pioneer in terms of technology, right? Because they want to go to the space. Okay, whatever we have here cannot work in the space, so they have to make a new technology. A lot. All right. So they define from TRL1 to TRL9. So a prototype, all right, is being defined in terms of TRL. All right. Okay. Now, the second, as you can see in the picture, you can read what is the definition of TRL, right? So it is the how do you assess which level of TRL of the a prototype. Okay. Now we are talking about prototype. All right. Okay. For a product, normally it already in the TRL 9. Okay. But if a prototype, it can goes down from TRL 1, climb to 2, 3, 4, until 8. Right? Sometimes if you are good enough, if as a team doing the prototype, you can jump. My prototype is already achieved TRL 4, TRL 5, TRL 6. If you go out there, I mean in Malaysia, TRL is being used everywhere. Right? So what does it mean? TRL 1. What does it mean by TRL 4, 5, and 6? You can read, I think it's readable. Readable, right? Okay, maybe I can read. Okay, the first one is the basic research. Okay, sometimes whenever you want to do a very novel prototype, you have to go to the basic one, which is the research. Okay, whenever we talk about research, something that is not exist in the world. All right, that is the definition of the first one. Okay, but for us, I mean, like a student, you make a research. Maybe it means you have to find examples of the same technology, right? For you, it is research, but in the community, it's not. It's not a research. Okay. All right. Let me give an example. Okay. All right. Okay. What do you think? If people want to transform the seawater into energy, we don't hear about this, right? Okay, we can't transform water easily into energy, right? I mean, we know electrolysis from apa ni? Secondary school kan. It takes time. You have to have electrical, right? But what if you have a technology, you take a water, immediately it transforms into hydrogen and oxygen. All right? Which means it is very novel, right? Okay. If that kind of research, then maybe the research is considered as TRL 1. Okay, you do the formulation, you do the mathematics and everything, right? You don't have the physical prototype yet. It's everything on paper. Okay? Okay. And then, let's say you finish with the first one, the one that I told you. If you have a machine that can transform a seawater easily into energy, right? Okay, this is example that we are going to give for TRL, right? The second one is technology formulation. All right. In order for you to formulate any kind of prototype, then you have to formulation, right? What is the material that you need? What kind of technology that you need, right? So that from there you have to table out what anything that you have to need to make the prototype. Okay. When you finish, then you achieve TRL2. Okay. And then you go further, proof of concept. Okay. In proof of concept, the third one, this is the first prototype. Okay, just to know that it works. Okay, it may not work perfectly, but at least it transforms lah, from water to energy. Kan? It faster than electrolysis. Maybe electrolysis take you 1 day. Your process can cut half. Oh, you're happy. All right. Okay. That's still a POC. All right. In fact, the POC may not work. All right. But it's still a POC, proof of concept. And then you reiterate. Okay. If your POC is successful, then you can jump to TR4, which is
Feasibility demonstration.
yeah. If you can demonstrate your prototype to other people, all right, okay, then you achieve TRL4. Okay, now let's say you make a prototype with whatever technology that have, okay, like okay, now I think you know about robotics, right? Robotics is not a novel; it's just like application, right? So if you make a prototype and it work easily, your prototype achieve TRL 3 or 4. Okay, like a student, you make a circuit for a prototype robot, right? And it works, and the robot works. Okay, then you would say, oh, I already achieved TRL 4. All right. Okay, now 4, 5, 6, 7 is just a matter of how do you test the product. If you're able to test in the real environment, compliance against the country, like Malaysia, I think if you know Sirim, right? And then we have, if you see all the phone, right? Oh, not stated here. Sometimes if you see any kind of apa tu product, you can see CE. CE means uh, the the product is being approved to be sold in Europe. It's like a passport. All right. So if your product meets CE, which means you can say that my product is already achieved TRL 6 or 7. Okay, it being tested, it works and comply to the country's regulations. Right. Okay. Whenever you go to 8 and 9, okay, the definition sometimes differ. 8 mean it's already sellable. Sometimes people say 9 mean you already sell for at least 5 years and it's matured. So I would say if your product or prototype transform into a product, okay, before that, just now I say prototype and product, right? Okay, in TRL, okay, you can see in TRL 7, the prototype already transformed into product. Something can be sell, TRL 7. Okay, before that is still prototype. Okay, 7, 8, 9 already a product, it's marketable, can be sell, and 9 you already achieve the maturity. It means like the iPhone is being used and no problem. Okay, of course if you read from the NASA point of view, they have a different apa tu meaning, because they have a flight mission to the space. Whatever TRL 9, which means it's already in the moon, it's already in the ISS, okay, which means it's already tested in the real environment and it's matured, right? I think clear, right? So at least you can gauge your product. Okay, now these are the steps in making a good prototype. You can read from anywhere. Mostly people will tell you making prototype. But here, how to make a good one. Okay. As you can see on the left, I draw lines. 2 lines. The first line is actually on the planning side. If you notice, in the planning side, there are a lot. Okay. But in the real implementation of prototype, it's just like, the detailed design, and then you develop the prototype. Okay, if you are developing programming, which means you are doing the coding, right? That's called develop the prototype, right? And then you test, and then you deploy. Okay, now let us go to one by one. Okay, in any prototype, let's say in your final year, project, right? Whenever you're being assigned by final year project by your lecturer, the first thing you have to define, you have to know what is the problem statement. Without knowing the problem statement, you know, how do you want to solve it, right? You have to know the problems. You have to really know the problems. Sometimes, I mean, lecturer also can gauge lah. Whenever the student present, are you solving the problems? You know, that's sort of the basic answer. So, the first thing you have to answer is the first thing you have to do is you have to define the problem in your own way, right? Okay, so that it match with the real problems. After that, okay, you have to know what is the functional or boundary requirements. Okay, now let us apa ni give an example lah. I was in the R&D company Proton back then in 2004. We were developing Proton Persona, Proton Saga, Exora, you know. So whenever we make a prototype, normally we go stage by stage, right? So we have to define the problem, which means what the customer wants. Customer want this kind of car. Customer want this kind of shapes, right? Okay, and then we define what is the functional. Okay, which means for a simple one, in Malaysia, okay, maybe we define a certain functional of the car, but different country they have a set of functional which is different. Like, you know, in Malaysia, people get used with the power window, right? To lift up and down the windows. But if you go to other country like Australia, I mean, they don't bother. Why do I need the power window? I mean, I was in 2010. My car Toyota kan still manual tau. So I mean, over there they're not bothered. All right. So making a prototype, you have to make sure you know the function requirement of your prototype. Okay. If you want to develop a robot, okay. If you Google my company is actually doing a lot of robotics work. So I would give a lot of example in robotics somehow. All right. So I have to define what is the function of the robots. If I want to deploy my robots in a apa tu? In a, let's say, in a factory, right? What is the functional or what is the objective? What is the purpose of the robots? All right. Sometimes you mix out. You will be mixed with the first one, problem statement and function. All right. Apart from that, you have to know the limitation, the constraint. Okay, if you have the robot, okay, then you have to know what is the requirement of the robot. Does the robot will works with alongside with the human? If yes, then you have to use a special type of robots. Robots normally can do harm to the apa ni? To the operator. So if you want to have a robot that can work alongside with the human, there is a special robot. So that should be a functional requirement. Okay. Okay. And there are a lot. And one of the things that also important is you have to participate for the risk. You have to think, if I put this robot, what is the risk? All right. Because the risk you have to address during the development of the prototype. Because otherwise, you put the prototype in the real environment, the incident happen because you don't anticipate with the risk. I mean, in a big company, whenever they want to develop something, right, they will assess the risk. What is the risk? Okay, we have a technical risk of the product, and also we have like strategic management risk. What is if we fail? What is if we, you know, losing? Okay, so it's also a risk. Okay, the third one, how do you want to solve? Okay, all these are still in the planning. You don't develop the actual prototype yet. It's still on the planning side. Okay, how do you want to solve? Is the technology is available? All right, is something novel, like the one that I mentioned before. Can I transform easily water into energy? I mean, at your level, you have to gauge. If you cannot do, then you cannot do. I mean, or innovator thinks differently. They have to push their limits, right? You have to make something beyond your capabilities, right? That's the innovator motivation, right? But of course, whenever you want to solve, you can easily benchmark. Okay, you can just, nowadays you have Google, right? You just Google whatever product that you want. Okay, then you benchmark. You make a reference. Who is your competitor? All right, and normally in university you have a lot of journals, right? You can read. I can share you if you want to know how to read journals. Sometimes it can become your bedtime story, right? Because very lengthy, a lot of technicals, and it makes you sleepy. But I read journals, and there is a way, because you want to read the history, the evolution of a prototype, but not very technical, right? Okay. After that, then you define your prototype. Okay, which means what is your uniqueness of your prototype, right? How it does it differ with the current technology? Okay, in terms of cost, maybe, in terms of speed, maybe, like the one I told you. If the electrolysis take 1 day, your innovation only take half. So it is something unique. Okay.
That's more like an advantage that you can compete with the competitors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't call it copy lah. We benchmark. At least we give some values, added value. Okay. Because if you want to copy, uh, you can copy, but try to give some advantage. Okay. Okay. Now, after complete, you try to conceptualize everything in a paper. I mean, if I'm designing, okay, I try to visualize everything on paper. If you are programmers, you try to make a algorithm, right? Pseudocode, okay, or maybe you can go further to the flow chart, okay. You don't really need to program, right? So everything is in the planning side, okay. And then you can see I put bold and also caps for review. Okay, this is important. Whenever you come to this stage, you have to review all the documentation that you already did, all the steps. Okay, because if there is anything problems, okay, in the first few steps, you review, then you redo again. All right, because planning side, it just costs you time and also apa tu, efforts of thinking, right? You don't create the tangible prototype yet. So you redo until you satisfy, or maybe you can have somebody else to review, or maybe in your final project you can have your supervisor to review. Okay. Now come to the second line, which means now come to the real stage of development. This is where you have to do the works. Okay, the real development. Okay, this is something obviously a straightforward. Okay, you have to perform a detailed design. If I'm like my company doing robotics, this is where I have to do the design, the schematic in electrical. I have to do the CAD design in mechanical. Okay, I have to do the architecture of the control system. Okay, how would be the control? What is the communication of the whole control? Okay, I have to put everything in detail. Okay, like my company, we have some license for CAD, so we can visualize everything in the mechanical part, also the electrical. Okay, and then once we are done, we review, because the importance to draw, or maybe programmer, you have to do the code, okay, so that whenever you review, you can see, okay, the whole thing. Programmer, even easy. If you do the code, then you can just easily debug and you can try, right? But for robotics, normally it's very hard for you to visualize, except if you can use CAD. So in the review, you have to review everything so that you satisfy. Is it function? If let's say a robot arm, right? You design a robot arm. Can robot arm reach the object? Okay. Can it carry the load? Okay. Can it function as intended? Okay. Nowadays we have like apa tu? We have robot operating system ROS. Can I use ROS to operate the robot? All right. Do I have a good microcontroller design? What is the interface? What is safety aspect? So everything you have to put into detailed design and then review. This is iterative process, which means sometimes you have to do not one. Normally it takes like 3 or 4 iterations. Okay. Design, review, not happy, design again, review, not happy. Okay. Until you're happy. Okay. After that, you develop. You manufacture the real product. Okay. So whatever. Sometimes I have to send to overseas for fabrication. Sometimes I have to send to Puchong here or Balakong or Klang. They can do fabrication. Okay. At this stage, you are happy with the design. It just fabrication matters, right? Okay. Normally, this stage it takes for us like maybe a few weeks only to fabricate. Okay. Of course, we have to assemble after that. Okay. I don't put the assembles here. No, develop the prototype means also the assembly. Okay. Once you done with the assembly, the code is done, right? You test it, and then if you have to refine, you refine. We call it TNC, testing and commissioning. You test and you commission. If you're not happy, then you do adjustment. Okay, now the beauty is whenever you complete the planning and also some of the detailed design, during testing and refine, you don't have much of problems because you already anticipate. That's why planning stage for me is crucial, right? Because time matters. Because like us, sometimes we have a very tight schedule, right? So we don't have time. Of course, money. I mean, we can get some sources of money, but normally time is much more important than money. So that's why we anticipate everything in the planning stage. So normally we have less problems. But if you don't do the planning, you would imagine sometimes the product doesn't work at all because you don't anticipate for the risk. And then sometimes the function that you see, you think that would function, and you know, oh, I choose a wrong product, I choose a wrong parts. Maybe in the programming, oh, I have to do a lot of libraries, I have to do a lot of low level code, which means you have to take a lot of times. So you have to make sure the planning stage is okay. All right, then finish. You are done, you can deploy. Sometimes the prototype, if the prototype is already achieved TRL 5 or 6, you can easily deploy to the market.
So I would like to add on to you as well. Yeah, I completely agree on the more on planning first before you really make out the prototype, because it also wastes your time if you really didn't thought it through, and also money if you're starting from a startup. But obviously, if you come from a strong corporate background, then you will have the money. But the time wasted would be not worth if the direction is wrong. So I actually heard about one strategy for developing a software is to list out all of the features that you would like to have and you think the market would like, and you just throw a pre coded software out there and see how the testers give your feedback. So as long as they ask about which features they wanted the most, then you can start on developing those and not develop all of the features and test them out. So do you agree on this like strategy?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's a good question. I read a book of Steve Jobs. Okay, Steve Jobs, whenever he want to make a UI, user interface, right? Okay. Normally he has they use a different software. I forgot the name. All right. They will test. They will make the interface using that software. Okay. And then the programmer will let Steve Jobs to do the assessment. There is a quote in the book says that enough to have only Steve Jobs to assess. it's already make them headache. Just who invent the first home button? It's Steve Jobs, right? Other phone, you have a lot of buttons here. Okay, that's him do the commenting. Why do you need a lot of buttons? He's the one who comment. So I would agree, for software, if you are serious in software to sell it as a product, you have to make sure you test. Okay. Mm.
So what's Mr. Taufik today bring us is like planning is very important, because I believe a lot of people nowadays, like they like to do reverse engineering. Like they come out the product first, after that they come back to the prototype. And after this talk, like we learned something from Mr. Taufik is planning is much more important than after coming the product. And we need to do the planning first, and after that the product.
Reverse engineering also, it comes back to the planning stage where you do benchmarking, how to solve it, right? Okay, at least you know your competitor, whatever out there, right? So reverse engineering also something that we use, the apa tu, the activity, and in fact, in the automotive market, a lot of copy of a parts, right? So we have a scanner. The 3D scanner, they can just scan this product in, and then you got it in the CAD environment, in the software, right? So this also a reverse engineering. But of course, you can't stop people to do reverse engineering to copy, right? Okay, but then you have, at least you plan, and then you see whatever features that they have, make sure you decide what is the added value that you want to throw in your product. Of course, it also goes back to the planning.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. Oops. Okay, now we just talk about the steps, and then the resources of good prototype. I mean, this is something simple. You need the people. Okay, if you form a team, you have to make sure you, of course, in making prototype, sometimes you don't have the skills required. Maybe your members doesn't have the skill. Nowadays it's simple. You can just get everything from Google, from journals, from the books, or maybe you can ask. All right. So you need a team. Okay. I used to make some things alone, but I feel like doing alone sometimes it's not very good. I don't have people to review, to comment, to agree, to disagree for disagree. All right. So for me personally, I would go for a teamwork. All right. Of course, there are some product made by one person. Of course, that person has to be multi skill. Okay. Let's say if you want to make robots, then the person have to know programming, mechanical design, what kind of control system that they want to use. Okay. And secondly, you need a support system. Support system mean your environment. Okay. Where the resource of the knowledge. Like just now, if you go Google, you can easily get some of the examples, okay, of your benchmark products. And then government agencies, support system. In this case, government agencies later. Okay, I mean you will graduating soon, right? Okay, somehow you have the idea to make something, right? You don't have the money. There are some agencies, okay, a lot of agencies who can help you, okay, giving you some apa tu, monies, grant. Of course, there are some criteria that you have to fulfill, okay. And then support system also from customer, okay, because customer is the one who will buy your product. So at least they are your support system so that they can do a review. Okay. Vendors, of course, you have to know the surroundings, who can help you, where you can buy the parts. I would say Malaysia or Kuala Lumpur or Selangor, or in fact in Johor, if you are in Melaka, everywhere in Malaysia, for me, doesn't stop you to do innovation. Okay, because for me it's quite easy to get parts here, because I used to do prototype also in overseas, okay, I found the same environment in Malaysia. Okay, so and also I was in exhibition last 2 weeks. Okay, there are some foreigners. They are making Malaysia as a place they want to innovate. You know, apa ni? There was a place nearby the company called MIT. Still in Meranti. It's still in Meranti. The company called MIT. The owner is from Egypt. Okay, he used Malaysian as a place he want to develop the tools for drilling, for oil and gas. Success, getting a lot of patents. So I would say Malaysia is a good place for you to do the prototype and also product, right? Of course, lastly, you have to know your testing ground. Okay, where you want to do the testing. Okay, now come to the interesting subject where people and tasks. Whenever you want to do prototype, normally you will engage people and you will assign tasks, right? So obviously, if you engage, then you have to construct a team, delegate the task. You have to have one person to be the leader. Okay, you have to decide who is the leader, and the leader have to decide on a lot of things. Okay. Secondly, teamwork. I put it in cap because teamwork is very important. Okay, you have to cooperate. Okay, you have to complement. Complement means in a meeting, right? Sometimes the one who do it, who perform, doesn't have the idea, and then you chip in, giving some ideas. All right, so you complement. Of course, if you do a lot of programming, kan, you stuck now because you are in the problem. Somehow people outside, the solution is quite simple, you know. So you complement each other. It's a teamwork. Okay. Of course, in a team you have to make sure you have to complete the assignment. If you cannot, then you have to tell the leader at least, you know, they can delegate to other people. Okay. Of course, and in a teamwork you have to participate. This is important. I notice, I don't know, in this university, sometimes normally whenever you have a team meeting, right, they only one or two person only do the talking. The rest, okay, I don't know, you know, you just attend the meeting just because of attendance, right? Okay, but it's not good. Okay, you have to do talking. Okay, you have to anticipate. You have to think the same way other people think. Okay, because you have to make the meeting time useful enough so that you can solve a lot of things. That is my way of conduct meeting. I don't want, you know, okay, never mind, we can decide this later. For me, it's no good, because that is the only time you know you have everybody around. Can you have to decide, at least the decision be made by everyone attending the meeting, right? So in fact, try to brainstorm as much as possible. Sometimes that's what makes the meetings extend for long hours, right? Okay, don't let the meeting okay, just get IV, keep in view the decision. Participate. Okay.
Sorry, sir. I need to interrupt a little bit because we are running a little bit low on time.
Okay.
And maybe we want to just skip the video, or do you want to continue this?
Okay. Yeah, maybe I just finished those two, and then maybe
Yeah,
Q&A.
sure. Thanks.
Okay, and then you go to the emotion management. This is important. You know, being in teamwork sometimes very stressful. Let me give you an example, right? You are doing the code. Okay, you have been do the script for 300 lines. Okay, and sometimes people condemn. What do you feel? Okay, I mean, of course, you need people to comment, but the choice of word is important. Okay, You have to think first before you want to do the talking. Don't simply comment. So, of course, both sides, people, the programmer have to accept it. Sometimes it's very hard for you to listen, okay? Because the way he put the words, something like, just like I want to punch the guy kan. Okay, all right. So you have to have the emotion management. Okay, you have to show some respect. And one term is agree to disagree. In a team, sometimes you cannot be something that you're not agree, right? I mean, you alone not agree, but the whole team agree. Okay, at this point, you have to tell yourself, I have to agree. The whole floor or the whole team member agree, even though you see some potentials of the risk, but the other team members see the risk is very remote. Okay, so you have to agree to disagree. Okay. Okay, lastly, meeting and plan. As I mentioned just now, you have to have a meeting as needed. All right. Don't just simply, okay, tomorrow we have meeting, and then the next day we have meeting without any progress. What is purpose, right? Because meeting, you have to make use of the time. Okay. I think, yeah, I think that's all for my presentation. I thought half an hour is almost 1 hour.
Yeah, time
Okay.
flies.
Okay, maybe this is a good example how Steve Jobs come up with the iPhone. He come up with the iPhone 3G, right? Okay, I think 2008, 7 or 9, around that time, right? Then you should see the video. Okay, how he presented the uniqueness of phone, how he reinvent back the phone, right? This is the first case study. Okay, he just want to get you motivated. He just want to get you the uniqueness of how Steve Jobs do the thinking. Okay, the second one, reinvent the chicken nugget. How McDonald's, okay? McDonald's is not the one who invent the chicken McNugget, but he reinvent back the chicken McNugget into the size that we have now, okay? And one more thing, he put everything in a apa tu, the sauce, the sauce apa tu, cup size is just suit to only one nugget. When you dip it, you can't dip it the whole nugget kan. You just some part of the nugget only. So that is the beauty when he do the innovation. Okay. I mean the story quite long lah. How they come up with the chicken McNugget, you know. It was I saw the discovery history movie of McDonald's, right? It's very nice how the owner of McDonald's tried to reinvent back the chicken McNugget, and then he managed to to get people buy the McNugget and also the Happy Meals. Okay, but I don't have the video. I try to get it, but I don't get any sources lah. Okay, I think that's all from me. Yep.
Thank you, sir, for your sharing. And yeah, be sure to click into the link to watch the YouTube video of the iPhone because it's quite related to what Mr. Taufik had said just now. So yeah, be sure to watch both of the videos so you can understand better on how really to make a good prototype like Steve Jobs did in 20 in few years back. And now we'll open to the floor for some Q&A questions. I think I'll open for the students in the hall first, and then maybe we'll move it online. So do I see any hands? Like any questions for Mr. Taufik here? Anyone? All right. So do we have any questions on? Oh yeah, one question. Oh, I see. The URL is not working. Okay. We'll have somebody work on that. Don't worry about it. Okay. So someone will send a new link into the chat. So yeah. And let me just double check. Do we have any questions online? Yeah, but to be honest, I'm quite curious in the McNugget story, but too bad we don't have enough time to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, it takes them like 3 years
Oh, wow.
to decide it. I mean, there is one time in, I think, 1976, the American government decided they have to regulate the amount of fat in the fast food. But back then, McDonald's selling a lot of burgers, okay, but they don't have the chicken burger. Burger King have chicken burger, so they are losing, right? So the owner say we have to have something, you know. And then 1976 until 1980 or 1979, right? The chef make a prototype of a nugget, small, and then he make the sauce with the correct size, and then the owner just love it. That's it. He want the nugget, but then arises a problem. How do you want to make in a big scale? Last time people associate chicken with the bone. You know, like you go KFC kan. You eat KFC normally you have a bone, but apa ni chicken nugget boneless, right? So if you do it manually, can. But McDonald's, they are looking for the whole outlet, right? So it also raises a problem. How do we want to make apa tu mass produce of the McNugget? So the whole history is very nice. And in fact, actually, the problem comes from the regulation 1970s, 76, because of the government give a ruling. The fat amount of the burger has to be this much. So along that process, do reinvent something new. That's where they come with the Happy Meals. You know, Happy Meals kan is for kids. And if you notice, they will put a toy every week different, or every month. Okay, so the kids associate food and toys, so they go to McDonald's. I mean, the thinking has to be there. If you want to be good in business, if you want to be good in your startups, you know, you have to make sure what kind of product that you want to sell to the people. McDonald's is one of a typical example. The company from from 70s, 60s, now still doing good. Coca-Cola. I mean, in fact, a lot of controversy, right, in Coca-Cola, but they are still doing great. There are some brands like Nestle, all the consumer products. So you have to think, okay, as a Malaysian, or in fact, if you are just from other country, in order for you to sustain the country, okay, try to invent, try to do something, okay. You will face the failure, but make the failure as your lesson learned. Failure, sometimes people associate absolute failure. I'm a failure. No, if you fail, makes as a lesson learned. Rise, okay. Do apa ni? Uh, uh, Redo again. All right.
All right, thanks for that. And anyone interested in the McNugget story, remember to search it online and watch it yourself. And now we have a question from the audience. Yeah.
Yes, so thank you for inviting me here and thank you for the good presentation. I have questions. So you mentioned how to read a journal. I want to know like how to read, like scan it all so quick.
Okay. Normally, when people write journals, okay, there are few sections. Okay. You skip the section of technicals. You are from which background?
Managing business management.
Business management, right? Because in journals, you just go to your interest. Okay. In journals, normally the first few section they will do some literature. That is for me. It is much more important. At least I can see the evolution of the writing. Okay. You want to see, or sometimes they will compare with other people. Okay. Okay. At least you know. All right. Because if you want to Google, you have to do a lot of thinking. But by reading journals, sometimes you get everything in one go, and then skip whatever you don't like. But if you have to go for the technical, if you have to read, you don't understand, but you know your memory, automatically it will do something. For me, if I have difficulties, I will read like maybe more than 3 times. I will read and read again, because my first reading I will understand one. The second reading, maybe I understand two. You know, because your mind you don't control, but at least they will do the thinking. That's how I read the journals. And at the end, you can just read the conclusion. Of course, conclusion is something you can readable, right? You can apa tu? Understand. Yeah. At least you know the step that he took. Is it okay? And then he will challenge again. What is the future works? You know. At least you know. Okay. What is the weaknesses of the papers?
Thank you, Mr. Taufik.
Yep.
And the question from our online student is prototype a compulsory process before creating a product? Prototype a compulsory process before creating a product?
Short answer, yes. All right. Normally, if you don't have a product, if you don't have prototype, then you can't test. Okay. Of course. Okay. Now, in my apa tu? Back then 2004, I was working with Proton. Okay. So every car that we produce, we have to have a prototype, because we have to see any problems at least. How does it function? Okay. Is there any problems? In fact, those prototype we use for testing. You know, crash test, when people the yellow car, and then we send it overseas, and then they will do the crash testing by hitting a barrier, or you know, a honeycomb. So that's why we need a testing. In fact, all companies like Toyota, Honda, they will make a prototype. Of course, this company like Toyota, Honda, okay, all these very good company kan, they can reduce the time because they knew the technology very well. So instead of making the prototype for 1 year, they can cut short, maybe half, only 6 months. So yes, prototype is important. In fact, iPhone 3, right? If you search, then Apple also do the same thing. They will make sure they have a prototype.
Thanks. So we have another question from the online audience as well by Frantic Fo. So what is Malaysia's technology readiness level? This is an interesting question.
Okay. The question is a bit general. The Malaysia technology TRL level, the one that I presented just now, is how you gauge your prototype. Okay, that is not something that you gauge the whole Malaysian.
All right. So moving on, we have another question from Wei Peng Yu. So I noticed many good products made in Malaysia are unable to sell due to lack of marketing and business strategy. Is that true?
Sometimes yes, true, because normally whenever you finish a product, okay, you use a lot of time, you lose a lot of money, right? But in order for you to sell, it takes you another kind of discipline. Okay, so don't stop there. So that's why Malaysian, they have a product. They know how to make things. They can invent. Of course, we don't compare to the German, Japanese. They can make better, right? Like now we have 5G. Now they are doing this 6G. Okay, they will reach 2030. So what I mean is, if you complete the product, you want to sell it. Okay, make sure you try to sell it, and because selling is a different kind of skills. Okay, products being executed by the engineers or programmers, you know, all the technical peoples. But selling is different thing. So when selling, you have to make sure you have good people in doing selling. If you can do selling, okay. Like Steve Jobs himself can. He also can do the selling. That's why he come up to the stage and he do the selling. All right.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that for it because yeah, prototyping is one man's job and marketing is another man's job. If you can perform marketing at a very good level, you can actually sell not that good of a product easily. But if you really have a good prototype and a good product, then I would suggest you to find other marketing companies that provide you strategy that they think through, like how you think through your prototype, and they can use that strategy to spread the product throughout Malaysia or even through worldwide as well. So I think that's all of the time we have here for today. I'd like to thank you, Mr. Taufik, here for joining us and sharing the session, as well as all
Thank
of
you.
the live audiences and also the online audiences. But please do not leave yet, as we are going to share the QR code for the certificate of participation. So please scan the form and you will receive the e-certificate in your email. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
As well. Yeah, we'll just wait for this QR code. To let them scan for.